Why can't I call you Colonel?
If we were overheard, sir, people might take us to be equals.
Well, listen, where I come from, everybody is equal, see?
Ah, that may be all very well for America, sir. But it would never do with us.
Every society has its own unique traditions and norms, structures shaped by a variety of historical, political, social, and economic influences. And within each of those cultures are carried seemingly distinct sets of principles and challenges that set them apart from any other. But with exploration, it becomes evident that every culture also shares many commonalities. Through relationships, art, attitude, and more, these connections are simply facets of a collective human experience.
And I want you two to get acquainted, Nell, make him feel at home, because he ain't quite used to our ways. And over where he come from, I guess it's the same the world over.
The optimal setting for these universal concepts to thrive has long been idealized to be the United States of America, deemed the land of the free. What is it that characterizes American culture? What influences its particular perspective?
Fascinating, your American rhythm, isn't it?
Yes, isn't it?
The USA, a tapestry woven by many threads of independence, innovation, and optimism, with a forward attitude that boastfully prides itself on hospitality, diversity, and equality. Yet how often does it carefully and consistently hold to its own foundational ideals? How must it feel for an outsider to fully grasp and assimilate into an authentic American experience? Ruggles of Red Gap aims to answer these musings through a masterfully humorous lens. Brimming with charming characters and comical situations, it's a film of its time for its time, and yet it carries a timeless relevance that easily resonates with contemporary audiences today. A reflective and joyful cinematic classic, Ruggles of Red Gap is a satirical petition for progress and cultural diversity in America that simultaneously underlines the profound privilege and significance of personal liberty carried by its citizens.
Nevertheless, my lord, when people think you are someone, you begin to think you are. That's what I've been fighting about with myself all day, my lord. Am I someone, or am I not?
Ruggles of Red Gap, penned by American Harry Leon Wilson, initially appeared as a serial in the Saturday Evening Post, before being compiled into a best-selling novel in 1915. That book, full of dry wit and insightful perspective, chronicles the journey of Ruggles, a dignified English valet who is carelessly wagered and lost by his employer in a poker game to a crude and newly wealthy American couple living in the western boomtown of Red Gap, Washington. This fish-out-of-water story follows the apprehensive Ruggles as he heads overseas and discovers, adapts, and embraces the nuances of American life. The book would quickly be adapted for other venues, including the Broadway stage in 1915 and a silent film in both 1918 and 1923.
Colonel Ruggles, what did Mr. Henshaw say your first name is?
Oh, it's never used.
Oh, what is it?
You'd laugh at it.
No, I wouldn't. What is it?
It's Marmaduke.
Oh, that's nice.
Its most celebrated iteration came in 1935, undoubtedly cemented by its talent behind and in front of the camera. Leading the way particularly was that of Charles Laughton, a renowned actor who, up to the time had been mainly known for his dramatic roles, would prove his caliber as an all-around performer and set his sights on comedy, with the title role in Ruggles of Red Gap.
Relax just a bit. No, the face. Now a little smile. Smile, that's it.
Born to hotel keepers in Yorkshire, England in 1899, he would begin his acting journey on the theatrical stage. He honed his craft at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art, at times under the mentorship of acclaimed actor Claude Rains. His on-stage debut occurred in London in 1926, and he would spend the next several years gaining notoriety, taking on numerous classical and expressionist roles. This path would swiftly lead him overseas, where he would bring his prowess in performance before American audiences and subsequently Hollywood movie producers. Laughton had briefly appeared in a handful of silent British comedies while performing in London, but his first Hollywood feature would come in 1932, starting with The Old Dark House, a campy horror film.
I thought you were never going to open that door. Why? There must have been a reservoir bust or something. Anyhow, before we knew where we were, something had fallen down and smashed the car in. It's a wonder it didn't smash us.
Throughout that same year, he would star in 5 more films in a wide range of genres, effectively showcasing his breadth as an actor. Laughton was a special talent, and there seemed to be no role he couldn't disappear himself into.
Those animals.
They talk.
That was my first great achievement. Articulate speech controlled by the brain. That was an achievement. Oh, it takes a long time and infinite patience to make them talk.
Someday I'll create a woman and it will be easier.
In 1933, just a year after his Hollywood debut, Laughton would win Best Actor for his portrayal of the title role in The Private Life of Henry VIII.
So, Master Cromwell, you'd have me make a fourth marriage?
If your majesty would but consider it.
Consider it? I would consider it the victory of optimism over experience.
Not hindered by any typical typecast, Charles Laughton quickly established himself as not only a substantial addition to a corps of eminent character actors, but quite possibly its most dominant player.
I shall come to you again when you have had time to consider the wisdom of my words.
Laughton was finding tremendous success in America, and by 1935, he was respected enough to select and even influence his next roles. Collaborating with Paramount Pictures, he would advocate himself for an adaptation of Ruggles of Red Gap. That beloved story of an Englishman finding his way in America was a special role that Laughton could undoubtedly find pieces of his authentic self in.
Oh, no. Always bring the pot to the kettle, never bring the kettle to the pot.
Listen, Colonel, I've been making tea for longer than I can remember.
Let's get into difficulties about this. But you must listen to an Englishman about tea. If it were coffee, I should be your pupil.
Laughton not only assumed the main role, but also carried significant authority over the conceptualization and execution of the production as well. When it came to appointing a director to guide the film's blend of humor and sincerity, Laughton had one particular person in mind: Leo McCarey, a law school graduate who, after briefly and unsuccessfully practicing the profession, felt his talents were best suited elsewhere. In 1918, he'd take on Hollywood, finding work on countless productions behind the scenes. By 1923, he would be employed by the famous Hal Roach Studios, initially writing gags for the popular series Our Gang. In 1927, he would gain comedic prestige as the man who united a meek and lanky Stan Laurel with a robust and irritable Oliver Hardy, forming one of the most legendary comedy duos in history.
Kennedy's my name. Mr. Hardy's mine. This is Mr. Laurel, Mr. Kennedy. How do you do, Mr. Laurel?
While having his directorial title on only a handful of films, via writing and producing, McCarey would be extensively involved in nearly 20 different Laurel and Hardy productions.
Going on a picnic! You got a lovely day for it. Yeah, you bet. Well, goodbye. 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 Enjoy yourself. Bye. Goodbye. 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 Bye. Well, goodbye. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Across the series of shorts he officially helmed, we can observe a particular kind of brilliant progression, a physical comedy of escalation, ignited by impeccable timing and the dynamic pairing of Laurel and Hardy. As Hollywood shifted more towards sound pictures, McCarey would dive into feature filmmaking, wherein he directed and refined the talents of many comedic legends, including Eddie Cantor, Gracie Allen, George Burns, and W.C. Fields.
Just to give me an idea of size, try this on, will ya? How's that feel?
It's a little too tight.
Tight? Let's see. That's funny, it fits me perfectly.
McCarey would further secure his standing in the world of comedy cinema by directing the irreverent Marx Brothers classic Duck Soup in 1933.
Gentlemen, enough of this. How about taking up the tax?
How about taking up the carpet?
I still insist we must take up the tax.
He's right, you've got to take up the tax before you can take up the carpet.
The film was a zany barrage of hilarious yet purposeful absurdity, and while it was considered a theatrical flop at the time of its release, it nevertheless caught the attention and comedic sensibilities of Charles Laughton.
Ciccolini, when were you born?
I don't remember. I was just a little baby.
When given the opportunity to suggest directors that could strike a balance of humor and insight for his Ruggles of Red Gap adaptation, Laughton would fervently campaign for Leo McCarey.
The enemy is coming. There'll be 2 lamps in the steeple if they're coming by land and 1 if they're coming by sea. They've double-crossed me. They're coming by land and sea.
While Duck Soup and Ruggles of Red Gap may have little similarity beyond director, it was evident that McCarey possessed a keen knack for social awareness. Laughton and McCarey would begin mapping out their vision for the film, working closely together with screenwriters Humphrey Pearson, Walter de Leon, and Harlan Thompson.
Ask him if he's got some ham and eggs. Voulez-vous hammy eggy?
Qu'est-ce que c'est, monsieur?
The man don't even know his own language. Hammy eggy. Gee, that's beautiful French. Beautiful French.
Ruggles of Red Gap begins in Paris, 1908, as the Earl of Bernstead blankly informs his loyal and long-standing butler Ruggles that he's been gambled away into the charge of an exuberant, recently affluent, and humorously at odds American couple, the Flouds.
Now, looky here. I ain't gonna have no English valet.
Oh, yes, you are.
No, I ain't. I got about as much use for one of them as a pig has for side pocket.
I'm going to turn you into a gentleman if it kills me.
Egbert, an endearing wisecracker that just enjoys a good time, and his socially ambitious wife Effie, who views Ruggles more as a means to elevate their social standing, considering him a material symbol of class, make for an enjoyable comedic pair.
You don't seem to realize what this will mean to us socially.
How socially?
Why, in Red Gap, it'll give us tone, joy de vivre.
What's that?
Tone.
Ruggles, a man of poise, etiquette, and service, stands in drastic contrast to the brash and easygoing Egbert Floud, who at his core has no interest in being served or to adopt a more seemingly high-class reputation.
Now go and sit down.
There is a certain difference in our walks of life, sir, which makes it impossible for me to sit at the same table with yourself, sir.
Well, you ain't ashamed to sit here, are you?
Ashamed it isn't that, sir. It just doesn't do for a gentleman's servant to sit with his superiors.
Superior's nothing. You're as good as I am, and I'm as good as you are, ain't I?
Well, sir...
Well, ain't I?
Yes, sir.
Charles Laughton's genius lies in the subtlety of his performance. While comedy was not his primary forte, Laughton nonetheless proved a master of it. Maintaining the composed demeanor of an elegant butler, he simultaneously employs contradicting and understated facial expressions that convey more authentic emotions, feelings of disappointment, surprise, gratitude, affection, drunkenness, and joy.
Yahoo!
While sustaining a clever deadpan, Laughton's performance is consistently nuanced and multifaceted.
Well, by cracky, I didn't know he had it in him.
However, if anyone could somewhat upstage Laughton's Ruggles, it's certainly Charlie Ruggles, in an incredibly confusing but perfect bit of casting, playing the boisterous Egbert with endearing buffoonery and good nature.
Come on, Bill, come on, stir your stumps.
His candid and equitable worldview confounds and gradually shapes Ruggles' newfound perspective. Egbert patiently exudes an excitable friendliness embodying the ideal American spirit of fairness and welcome.
But it is highly improper for you to take your valet about with you, sir.
Oh, they won't know you from the Duke of Kakiak. Come on in and mix.
Oh, no, sir.
Say, looky here. Who are you working for, anyway?
You, sir? Mix, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
His love for life and merrymaking is mindful, and despite newfound wealth, he finds the whole idea of social climbing a bother. His admirable energy is infectious, and Charlie Ruggles steals every scene he is in.
I think he looks very distingué.
Gay nothing. I look like that bantam rooster I had before it was run over.
When you came in here, you look like that bantam rooster after he was run over.
If Egbert represents America's warmth and hospitality, the rest of the accomplished supporting cast help accentuate other facets of the country's character, like Mary Boland as Effie Floud, Egbert's wife. She's well-meaning but aloof, displaying a misplaced sense of pride while ambitiously seeking to ascend the social ladder.
I think you'll find a few of us who still rarely care about what is happening in the Hotamonde.
Indubitably, madam.
Oh, what beautiful French you speak, Ruggles.
Interestingly, the spot-on chemistry of Mary Boland and Charlie Ruggles can likely be attributed to their frequent pairing in nearly a dozen comedies throughout the 1930s, often as a married couple. Additionally, Lucien Littlefield plays Charles Belknap Jackson, a sneaky and conniving snob, apprehensive and threatened by any social class below him. The villain of the story, if there were to be one.
How do you do, Colonel?
The Colonel come all the way from England with us.
You'll find a few of us here that really matter.
He's Egbert's manservant.
His valet?
Yes.
Zesu Pitt's charms as Miss Judson, a kind and diligent widow committed to make ends meet and live simply through hard work and dedication.
I say, what a snug little home you have.
Well, I just sort of fixed it up myself.
Did you? Oh, goldfish.
Oh?
I have always derived intense satisfaction from their silent companionship.
Have you?
Whether portrayed positively or not, the film offers a diverse view of several aspects of American life.
Well, Colonel, I think you're going to like it here. If Egbert likes you, you must be a regular guy. And if you're a regular guy, you're okay with Red Gap.
Thank you, madam.
While the film certainly comments on American culture, it playfully pokes fun at the lifestyles of other nations in a similar vein, delivering light-hearted send-ups of affluent European culture as well.
I can't help worrying about what will happen to you, my lord.
Oh, don't. I'll be all right. Be rather fun dressing myself, I expect, eh?
I hope you will enjoy it, my lord.
Oh, of course I shall.
With your digestive tablets.
Yes.
Anchored in part by a stiff, upper-lipped Roland Young as Ruggles' former employer. His witty yet dreary delivery, coupled with his reserved, inherent British manner, is another stark juxtaposition to the Western zaniness Ruggles is soon exposed to.
You recollect an Abraham Lincoln, my lord?
Oh, yes, fellow with a cherry tree.
No, my lord.
It's clear that Europe, especially in the early 20th century, much like America, could be just as oblivious to the habits and histories of other countries. Universally, preconceived notions and broad generalities dominate popular perspective, often resulting in missed opportunities to acknowledge shared struggles and understandings. This is evident in Ruggles, as upon hearing his next destination, the long-indentured servant delivers this line without any hint of irony.
Oh, yes, I forgot to tell you, you're going out to America.
America, my lord. A country of slavery.
Of course, he wasn't wrong, but the intricacies of America's professed design run deeper.
That's all finished, I believe. Some fellow called Pocahontas or something did something about it.
Indeed, my lord.
Despite initial resistance, he discovers that the reality of the American experience isn't as straightforward as he first believed. Though Leo McCarey's directorial style had previously been linked to more overt slapstick, he opts to direct Ruggles with a more composed and understated sense of humor. While the film has its fair share of lively characters, its wisdom shines equally through its more restrained and passive performances, altogether commenting on and accentuating human nature and unique American folkways.
Hey, Bill! That's a little close there, even for Red Gap.
When Egbert's insistence on affably terming Ruggles as the Colonel inadvertently leads to a confusion of identity, while initially uneasy by it, Ruggles notices a shift as others begin treating him with dignity and respect. And in that newfound confidence, he discovers that he has the potential to transcend his own self-imposed limitations, and embarks on a pursuit towards his own version of the symbolic American dream, an intangible notion that suggests anyone can achieve anything through determination, hard work, and the freedom to do so.
Well, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll all have one more shot, and then we'll move Bill back into the house. What do you say?
No, sir. I'd rather not.
Why not?
Well, sir, I can't go on posing as what I'm not. And, I don't wish to remain in service any longer, sir. I want to make something of myself. I would like to stand on my own 2 feet. This is a land, sir, of great opportunity, where all are created equal.
Yeah, that's what I've been... Now you're talking. Like Lincoln said that day at Gettysburg.
The American dream is not bestowed upon many. It has been hard fought for, and even still remains fraught with obstacles. And still, it remains a worthwhile pursuit. This American sentiment is perhaps most apparent to immigrants, and at times, least evident to its own citizens. At the heart of the film is a scene absent from the original novel, a profound recitation in full of the Gettysburg Address.
77 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal.
Originally given by Abraham Lincoln on the battlefield of Gettysburg 4 months after one of the bloodiest conflicts in American history. In the address, Lincoln dedicated a cemetery, mourning the profound loss of life that occurred there, while underscoring the essential essence of America and her design, that which it had just been so fiercely fought for. He reiterated the ideals envisioned by our nation's founders upon its inception, while emphasizing the important burden we carry to perpetuate and mature them. Lincoln, in context, spoke on behalf of emancipation and preservation of an entire nation, but for Ruggles it resonates on a personal level. As he learns and embraces the spirit of his new country, reflecting its ideals in a different light, he truly experiences a new birth of freedom and devotes himself to embracing those greater opportunities.
It is for us the living, rather to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced.
For an immigrant, the Gettysburg Address can hold profound meaning, where on the other hand, this scene serves as critical commentary of American convenience and complacency. When challenged to recall the words of one of the nation's most defining speeches, the entire room draws a blank.
Hey, what did Lincoln say at Gettysburg?
I don't know. I wasn't there.
While this sequence has a humorous surface, it also carries a thoughtfully troublesome concern.
What did Lincoln say at Gettysburg?
I don't know. What did he say?
Despite the room's conscious recognition of the speech's importance, they initially seem to have been content in their unawareness of its definitive substance.
What a fine bunch of Americans.
As citizens of the United States, we benefit tremendously from our nation's freedoms, yet oftentimes we remain apathetic and detached from the history, the struggles, and the foundational principles that proclaim their importance, unfeeling towards those same triumphant elements that inspire and attract people from other parts of the world to journey here and encounter themselves.
Well, that's it. Bill, don't tell me you know it.
In the case of a room filled with endearing but hapless bar patrons, it takes a complete outsider moved by those weighty promises to remind them all, if only fleetingly, of the rewards and challenges they possess as Americans. Throughout its history, the USA has always struggled to uphold these profound ideals. At the time of the film's release, the nation was deeply entangled in the troubling grasp of despicable Jim Crow laws, starkly contradicting the fundamental basis upon which the country was built. While the film highlights these sweeping American ideals, it remains a product of its era, perhaps intentionally unaware of the neglect it was perpetuating towards a significant portion of the population. And even today, there continues to be a lack of unity on issues relating to immigration, race, and civil liberties. Genuine equality in America is an unfinished work. As Lincoln articulated and Ruggles echoed, we must be dedicated to that great task.
And that government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish from the earth.
This powerful moment of drama is but a moment in the film, as every other scene dives headfirst into comedic situations, highlighting the silly characteristics of what can make high-class lowbrow, and lowbrow a little more high-class.
I'm created equal.
Equal to what?
Equal to what? Well, equal to... She changed the subject on me. Men are created equal to women. That's why you have no right to order me around the way you do. Abe Lincoln said so.
The story unfolds in the American West, a land of boundless possibility where one's fortuitous destiny was there for the taking if you had the determination to pursue it. Ruggles finds his own in Red Gap. He nabs the dream through a new birth of freedom and finds himself a career, a family, and a community. A commanding notion implies that immigrants are expected to leave behind their native customs and fully assimilate into American culture. Yet the film proposes a more appealing alternative, a belief that embracing diversity and acknowledging the traditions of others is a much more valuable and enriching pursuit for our melting pot of a country.
Well, I'll tell you, Bill, we already got a president, but anytime you want to run for mayor or sheriff or something like that, you just let me know.
I'm not ambitious for public office, sir.
Well, Bill, what are you figuring on doing besides standing on your own 2 feet?
I keep telling him he should open a restaurant.
Great!
Say, that ain't a bad idea.
Ruggles establishes an enterprise in Red Gap, the Anglo-American Grill, the perfect fusion of all his notable attributes. It represents his English heritage intertwined with his budding American identity, centered on his passion for hospitality, though now in a more autonomous and dignified capacity.
Haven't you any catsup?
Oh, never mind. I'll eat when I get home.
He becomes his own man, free from former constraints and no longer willing to tolerate arrogance from those who foolishly believe themselves superior.
My father was a gentleman's gentleman, and his father before him. And from that heritage of service, miraculously, there comes a man, a person of importance, however small, a man whose decisions and whose future are in his own hands.
It's wonderful, isn't it?
The film was a hit with audiences and earned a nomination for Best Picture at the Academy Awards. Astonishingly, it was competing against two other Charles Laughton-led dramas, Les Miserables and Mutiny on the Bounty, The Ultimate Victor. Nevertheless, Laughton would later regard Ruggles as the most favorite role of his filmography. While Laughton would occasionally explore other comedic characters throughout his career, his most significant takeaway from Ruggles of Red Gap was naturally the drama, and his compelling recitation of the Gettysburg Address. The speech would famously become a hallmark of his career, and he would recite it in many venues for the rest of his life. The success of the film would also find director Leo McCarey at a kind of crossroads, as Ruggles would prompt him to lean further away from the pure slapstick elements of his films and venture more towards emotionally substantial projects like The Bells of St. Mary's and An Affair to Remember.
You know, there's great beauty in this world, if you just have the eyes to see it. Isn't there, Father?
Oh, naturally.
He would go on to win Best Directing Oscars for both The Awful Truth and Going My Way. McCarey's legacy endures as a perceptive master of both comedy and human understanding. Over the next couple of decades, the cast would occasionally reunite and reprise their film roles for radio adaptations of the story.
Well, what you looking so funny about? You ain't sick, are you?
I am in excellent health, sir, but it is rather a shock to find oneself breaking the tradition of generations.
Well, don't let it throw you, Colonel.
Additionally, the film served as an inspiration for a loosely adapted 1950 musical comedy called Fancy Pants, starring Bob Hope and Lucille Ball.
What polish, what finesse. Gadzooks, I'm a butler who's really a butler, aloof from my hoop to my blinkers. I look just as bored as me master the Lord as I'm serving the blinking tea drinkers.
Ruggles of Red Gap is a perfectly balanced comedy. Much like the relationship between Marmaduke Ruggles and Egbert Floud, the film masterfully blends subtlety with wild antics, cleverness with authenticity, and humor with heartfelt moments. It highlights the contrast between two wildly different cultures, and beautifully demonstrates how those differences can be bridged and celebrated.
Which nobody can deny, which nobody can deny.
Why, you old plate of soup, they're singing it for you.
What?
This is Levity Light Classics.
My friends, God bless you all.
Oh, he's a jolly good fellow, he's a jolly good fellow, he's a jolly good fellow. And so say all of us, and so say all of us.
See what I mean? He's a man that should never have liquor. It brings out the beast in him.